Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Tom Aluise. I'm glad you're with us for our webinar today, One and Done, Problem with Single-Use Plastic Shopping Bags and Straws. And I work for the Department of Environmental Protection. And my co-pilot today is going to be Sara Pryor. Sara and I both work for the Youth Environmental Program under the DEP. This slide here is going to be put up again later, but if you wanted to make a note of any of the contact information, you can do that. And Sara is going to talk later in the webinar just a little bit more about the youth program. So let's get started. Single-use plastic, it comes in various forms, and single-use plastics, basically plastic you use one time and essentially discard it after that one time you use it. The list here is the top 10 single-use plastic items found on seashores. What we're talking about today, plastic bags and straws, are number 6 and 7 there, you can see on the list. I wanted to mention number 1, which is not surprising to me and probably not to you guys either, drink bottles, caps, and lids. But I wanted to focus just a second on number 2 on the list there, cigarette butts. A lot of people don't consider cigarette butts as litter. There's trillions of cigarette butts in the environment. And a lot of people also don't realize that cigarette butts are actually made of plastic or have plastic in them. The fiber in there is a type of plastic called cellulose acetate. And because it's plastic, it doesn't biodegrade. So that's one that people might not always consider as a single-use plastic, but definitely a cigarette is single-use. The butts are obviously single-use, and that's where all the toxic materials from the cigarette get stored in the filter. So I thought that was interesting. And of course, when we do cleanups at the DEP, most of what we pick up is cigarette butts. So synthetic plastic, which is plastic that is man-made and doesn't occur naturally, that's been around since the early 1900s. And plastic manufacturing in the United States really took off around World War II, then continued heavy into the early 1950s. It was really revving up then. And in 1953, that was kind of a game changer when high-density polyethylene was invented. It was very durable, it was light, it was easy to form, it was moldable, and it was very strong. We know that as number 2 plastic, right? So number 2 plastic is found a lot in detergent bottles, shampoo bottles, milk jugs, and of course plastic bags. If you look at your Kroger bag, you'll find a number 2 on there inside a recycling symbol, and just about every shopping bag, I'm sure, is made from HDPE, high density polyethylene. So in the early 1960s, a Swedish company, a scientist at a Swedish company, decided that this plastic was a good idea to use to make reusable bags. The name of the company was Singleuse. Now, his original idea was that these bags would be used over and over again. Back then, people were using paper. Of course, you need trees to make paper. So he thought these bags would be more environmentally friendly, and people would use them over and over again. They were strong, they were light, they were very durable. You could take a lot at one time and put them in your pocket and take to the store. Boy, was he wrong, right? The problem with that is they became so convenient and easy to obtain that people just started throwing them away. In the 80s, Dixie Bag Company, they began manufacturing and marketing the bags as an alternative to paper. And Kroger and Safeway in 1982 picked up the pace. I grew up with paper bags. They weren't light. They weren't particularly durable, especially if something leaked inside of them. You could only really carry one paper bag at a time. You could maybe hold two in your arms if they weren't very heavy. But if you tried to put a lot of groceries in one paper bag, it became really heavy, so you can only carry one at a time. As you know, with plastic bags, you can get a whole bunch in each hand. So plastic bags are much more convenient. Of course, the bottom line is too, it's a lot less expensive to make plastic bags, right? And everybody loved them. They really made life easier for the consumer and also saved retailers money. So you can see why they picked up so much in popularity. Here's a quick video I wanted to show you guys. I'm going to pause it maybe halfway through. So you can see the enormity, the enormous amount of plastic that we use, and in that video, I thought that was very telling. This is just maybe some quick numbers: 100 billion used and disposed in the U.S. every year, 12 minutes average use time, 2 million used worldwide every minute. The 12 minutes, I know that doesn't seem like a long time, but just think about all the times maybe you go to a convenience store or stop by the supermarket real quick on the way home. You buy a few things, put them in the bag, then come home, empty them, and then you're done using the bag. So that probably adds up. So 12 minutes is probably a pretty good average of the amount of time that we actually use a plastic bag. I mentioned the 2 million plastic bags are used every minute worldwide. I wanted to focus there on the bottom for a minute. Between 500 billion and 1 trillion are estimated to be used annually worldwide. I thought that was a very telling number too. So most plastic bags are not recycled. A lot of enormous amount of them end up in our landfills. Plastic's not biodegradable, as I mentioned. It doesn't break down naturally. It's not organic. Bacteria doesn't, bacteria loves organic materials like food, not so much plastic. So plastic bags that get put into landfills and get buried don't get much oxygen or sunlight, and they stay in the landfill unchanged for hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years. Of course, that's better for them ending up in the environment, but still, it's not a great place for our plastic bags to end up. Plus, it takes up so much space in our landfills, and we don't have an infinite amount of space. So what happens to bags that aren't reused or recycled or thrown away? Well, they end up as litter. And I'm sure you see plastic bags floating around all over the place. I saw one, I was driving down the interstate the other day, and a plastic bag just floated in front of my car like a bird. And they become kind of like urban tumbleweeds in a way, just floating around the environment on ball fields, in your backyard, on playgrounds. You see them in bushes, up in trees. You just see them everywhere. Ultimately, they often end up in the ocean, or end up in creeks and rivers, and then end up in the ocean. once they get there, more bad things happen. There's some numbers there. 100,000 marine mammals and up to 1 million seabirds are killed every year after ingesting or tangled in plastic in the ocean. Of course, as I mentioned, they float easily, travel in the air, and they've been found at the bottom of the ocean and top of Mount Everest. Here's another quick video that I thought was really telling about the kind of the life cycle of a plastic bag once it's no longer being used.
Traveling light, broke all ties, follow my road, that's my Lord. Looking for my destiny, oh, the wide world is waiting for me. Riding with the breeze, feeling free, so free, till you cross my path and put a spell on me. But honey, I won't be chained, this spirit can't be tamed. Nobody puts a hold on me, and nothing can destroy my glee. I'll live to 1,000 years, I got no worries, while nobody cares.
Okay. The following couple slides are just some pictures of what happens sometimes when plastic gets in the ocean. Like some plastic or plastic bag on a dolphin there. Plastic bags, when they float in water, they look an awful lot like jellyfish. So turtles are confused between what's a bag and what's food. And that's very often very harmful for turtles. So you guys may have heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It's kind of a huge island of trash that's floating around in the Pacific Ocean. And our oceans have 5 gyres, and they're basically just big spinning currents, like big whirlpools that kind of draw in whatever's floating out in the ocean, debris, any trash, plastic, and they kind of, it's like a big just kettle of trash that's floating around, and they're huge. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is the biggest of the garbage patches in the oceans, and it's twice the size of Texas, and I believe 3 times the size of France. So there's a lot of plastic, obviously, in that, and we'll talk a second here about microplastics, but a lot of what you find in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is discarded fishing equipment, like nets and ropes, that makes up a lot of the debris that's in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. You can see it's right off the coast of San Francisco there, between California and Hawaii. It's estimated that there are 18 trillion pieces of plastic floating in the patch. That's 250 pieces of debris for every human on the planet. Since plastic doesn't biodegrade, that poses many problems, but it does photodegrade. The sun's ultraviolet rays will break down plastic, but doesn't really go away. It ends up in these little teeny pieces of plastic called microplastics. So you find a lot of microplastics in the garbage patches, because obviously they're going to get sun out in the ocean. And as they break down, they get smaller and smaller. They're ingested by different fish and sea creatures, and obviously not good. That's not a good situation. But there are some of the things that are included in the list of microplastics: synthetic fibers, paint dust, tire dust, fishing equipment that breaks down, and microbeads. Microbeads are used in like personal care products, like toothpaste and nail polish and things like that. And they're tiny pieces of plastic as well. 8 states have banned plastic bags. As you notice, most of them are, not all of them, but most of them are on the coast. And there's also states, if you notice that maroon color, those are states that have preempted laws being made to ban plastic bags. So there are preemption laws out there as well. So what can we do about the single-use plastic bag issue? Well, you know, the good old reduce, reuse, recycle always comes into play there. Try reducing the amount of plastic bags you use. And if you're just getting a few things, skip the bag. Maybe figure out a way you can carry your goods out without having to get a bag. If you go to a store and just get a couple items, a lot of times they'll automatically put it in a plastic bag for you. Just tell them no thank you on the bag, just get your receipt and go out the store carrying the things in your hand. That way you don't have a bag to worry about. Of course, you can reuse the bags too. I don't know, I haven't been really good about reusing my Kroger bags at Kroger or wherever I go. I'm going to start trying to do a better job of that. So maybe, you know, when you go to the store, just put a bunch of Kroger bags that you have laying around the house in your pocket, or any type of plastic bag, single-use bag, take it back to the store and use it again. If they start to get a little bit worn or maybe a hole, you know, maybe you can put 2 together and make it more sturdy. You know, they're made from, as we know, number 2 plastic, which is pretty strong and sturdy and lasts, as we know, a long, long time. So maybe try reusing your Kroger bag, and you're honoring the original intention of the bag when it was invented, that it would be reused over and over again. Of course, if you don't reuse them, there's always the option of recycling them. I like this little sign in a store somewhere that 120 people, I guess they kept track of how many people declined on the plastic bags. Of course, you can use reusable bags as well. And people have come up with creative ways to reuse their plastic bags, making jump ropes and sleeping mats, things like that. If you're wondering where to recycle your bags, most places that use those bags will recycle them. For example, Kroger, Walmart, Target. I'm pretty sure just about every one of those stores have recycling bins that you could return your bags to. Kroger is phasing out plastic bags, I believe, at all its stores by 2025. So that won't be an option here in a few years. It may be sooner than that, but Kroger has announced that they're going to quit using plastic bags. So keep that in mind. So I hope you guys learned something there, maybe picked up some good ideas on how you can reduce the amount of single-use plastic bags that are out there in the environment. I'm going to turn it over to Sara now, and she's going to get into straws.
Okay, guys. So we learned a lot about plastics and how they harm the environment. So I wanted to focus a little bit on the straw. This is another convenient plastic that's single use that we use daily, and it is just something that I feel passionate about, that I just want you to start thinking about whether or not we really even need the straw. So could we skip the straw? Okay, so looking at the numbers, just how many straws do we use every day? There is a debate over the estimate, but looking at the numbers, it's from 300 to 500 million daily. So whether or not you agree with 300 or the 500 million number, that's just way too many straws. And how did we get to 500 million straws a day? And what does that look like? It's enough to circle the earth 2.5 times. So that right there, I hope, will inspire you to really rethink that straw and decide whether or not you really need that straw. We've had straws for a long time, and how did we get to 500 million straws a day? Well, straws are convenient. Every single one of us, I'm sure, has been on the road and you get fast food. You can see the many different fast food chains, and it's just simply easy to grab your cup and your straw and drink it on the go. And then looking at the Juicy Juice box, as a parent, I am very familiar with juice boxes and Capri Suns, and I'm sure you guys as students, you have packed your lunch before, and you might even pack a juice box or a Capri Sun. So these are things that just happen, and a lot of people across the whole world, they don't really think about that tiny straw and the huge impact that that straw has on the environment. Starting at the early 1900s, again, folks were scared of diseases that were contagious, so they started using the paper straws. And then in the 50s, whenever to-go meals were on the rise from fast food restaurants because automobile was popular and many people could afford to own one, that's when they really started to replace the glasswares and started embracing on that fast, convenient way of life. And then by the 60s, the plastic replaced the paper straws permanently, pretty much, and that's where we are today. We have lots and lots of straws. Okay, so I have a poll, and it's just a short 3-question poll. It's just for fun, and I'm going to use your answers to dictate what we talk about in the next couple of slides. So the first one, do you use plastic straws? And I'll be honest, sometimes I do. So if you do, don't worry about it. We're all friends here. And then if you have thought about how straws hurt the environment, that's question number 2. And number 3, what were the first straws made from? All right, so it looks like some people use them all the time, sometimes. And oh yay, everybody has thought about how straws hurt the environment. That's awesome. And then the first straws were made from gold. Okay, good job, guys. All right, so what's so bad about plastic straws? It seems like everybody has thought about this. And the next few slides, I'm going to discuss a little bit about straws specifically. Tom did a great job of covering what's so bad about plastic in general. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the question box, and we'll see if we can answer them at the end of the slides. All right, so first of all, we use plastic straws for only a matter of minutes, and then we throw them away. They are hard to recycle. I really don't know any place in my area. I live in southern West Virginia, and I don't know of any place that will recycle the straws. The straws are small, they can get jammed up in the conveyor belts on the machinery in the recycling center, And I'm not sure. I think that's the main reason that they are not recyclable. It would be a huge hassle where they get jammed up in the conveyor belts. They do not biodegrade. So again, they last forever. They will break down into the microplastics, but microplastics stay in our air and in our waterways forever. They don't go away. And then most importantly, they do impact our rivers and our oceans and the aquatic life. So going back to that number, there's 500 million straws that we use every day. And if we don't change the way that we see straws and we don't recognize that they are they have a huge impact on the environment, by 2050, there's going to be more plastic in the oceans than fish. And then also you see the impact that it has on the aquatic life. These beautiful creatures, they think that plastic is food. They will eat the plastic, or the plastic will just make its way into the fish and the marine animals' bodies. And especially if they eat the food, the plastics, they won't recognize that they are actually hungry. They'll feel full from the plastic, and they will end up starving to death. So do it for the sea turtles. I've heard it with a lot of the groups that I work with, the teenagers. They always say, the sea turtles. So if anything, think about the next time you might be offered a plastic straw, do it for the sea turtle, okay? All right. So I ask you today, do you really need that straw? As Tom pointed out, straws are in the list of one of the top 10 marine debris found on our beaches. And I'm hoping that by you guys watching this webinar, we can give you some ideas of what you can do to help. Because what I always like to tell my youth groups and tell my children, we have a problem. Now, how are we going to be a part of the solution? Because we just learned about some sad things. We learned about some pretty important things, and a huge problem with plastic straws and plastic bags. This can build doom and gloom, but we have the power to turn it around and to make a huge impact of how we can solve this problem. The next few slides, I have some suggestions that you can do. And then again, if you guys have some suggestions, feel free to put it in the chat box and we can share those as well. Okay, the first thing is to simply refuse. You do not need a straw to drink out of a cup. Yes, it's convenient. Yes, there's some reasons why you might need a straw, but the first step, we could simply refuse. And I am going to challenge all of you today to sign up for the Plastic Free July Challenge. You go to plasticfreejuly.org and you can choose to refuse single-use plastics. This is a campaign, it's global. So right now, we might feel like we're not as connected with our friends and society just the way that it is. But this is a fun and exciting campaign that we can sign up and we can be connected. We can work with people from all across the country to reduce our impact by refusing single-use plastic. Now, if you see that you get through, you can do it just for one day. You can sign up to refuse plastic for a week. You can sign up for the whole month of July. And if you see that it's actually pretty easy and you kind of like the feeling, I feel empowered whenever I can make a difference, then you can then take that and you can make it a part of your life. I'm going to brag on my husband real quick. 8 years ago, it's been 8 years, and I believe we were sitting in a restaurant, and the server offered the straw, and he refused it. He's like, no, I don't need one. And our entire dinner conversation was based around like, do we really need a straw? Like, I can just drink out of the cup. I don't need a straw. It's just a waste. He never even thought about, and I never thought about where that straw goes after you use it. It was mainly just what a waste, and he chose to refuse the straw. And then 8 years later, he still doesn't use the straw. So that's the first thing that everybody can do. It doesn't matter what your age, it doesn't matter who you are, you can simply refuse the straw. Now, I know some of us do like straws, and there's some cases where it's nice to have a straw. So there's alternatives. The colorful straws you see on the screen, those are made from paper, and then you have bamboo straws and also stainless steel straws. So if you do like your straw and enjoy your straw, you can opt for something other than the single-use plastic straw. And another thing that I think would be really awesome and that every single one of us can do, I encourage you to research the local restaurants in your area. And I want you to try to find out if they use single-use plastic straws. If they do, why not call them, send an email, or mail a letter and ask them to think of alternatives of a plastic straw. Ask them to possibly start using paper straws. And you can use some of these, you can use some of the examples that we talked about today and some of the statistics to help back up your argument of hoping to persuade them to stop using plastic straws. I think that would be a great thing for you guys to do, and it would make a really cool youth environmental project as well. And speaking of the youth environmental projects, Tom and I, we work for the youth environmental program, and that's another thing that you guys can do to help the environment. If I know that we have several of you guys from the Youth Environmental Program tuning in today, and that's really cool. I'm so happy you're here. So I'm going to explain a little bit about our program for some of you that might not be enrolled just yet. There's no obligation to participate. It's just a wonderful program that you can join in order to learn a little bit more about the program and what we do. And it also opens up the door for you guys to compete for cash awards and prizes for the environmentally friendly projects that you work on throughout the year. Every spring, we open it up to inviting our youth groups to submit a summary report, and then those reports are judged, and we award over $15,000 in cash awards. And the scholarship is huge. It's a $10,000 scholarship to a deserving senior every year, and that's just our way to give back to the youth groups and to just thank you for doing your part in keeping West Virginia clean, and also really just watching over the environment as a whole, because we are in this together. The additional resources that I'd like to talk about, we offer, we have district coordinators in each part of the state, and the coordinators can come out to your youth groups and we could do presentations. If you wanted to brainstorm about a project that you can do for your summary report, we can discuss it, we can help you get started. We can provide materials for litter cleanups, and then we go into schools and we work with teachers. And we also have some educational resources listed on our website. And then the statewide activities is super fun. I love my job. It's just so great to work with youth across the state. But we host 3 events a year. The first one is whenever we hand out that cash awards and we celebrate the youth groups at Youth Day. And that's always in May. And then we have Junior Conservation Camp. It looks a lot different this year. It's virtual, but usually we are at Cedar Lakes in Ripley, and the camp is for ages 11 to 14. And then we also host the Youth Environmental Conference, which is geared towards our older groups, and that's 13 through 18 years old. And the conference focuses on current environmental issues. You learn about the environment in West Virginia by going exploring and sightseeing. And then we usually always try to invite professionals in the industry to come and talk with us and learn a little bit more. What we hope is our youth will stay in West Virginia and want to get into a career where they can help keep our beautiful state clean and take care of it. So who can join the free program? Pretty much any youth group. We have homeschoolers, we have scout groups, 4-H groups, church groups. Again, if you are a youth group and you are jazzed about taking care of the earth, then this is a program for you. How do you enroll? You can call your district coordinator. You can reach out to them. You can also go online, the dep.wv.gov, and look under environmental advocate, and the YEP page, the youth environmental page, actually has a large enroll now button that you can click on. Or if you'd like, you can jot down my information or Tom's information. You can give us a call or send us an email, and we can provide you with information and get you signed up if you would like to do it that way. So I am going to open this up to answering any questions that you guys might have had, or anything that you want to add to this. So
We did get a couple questions, Sarah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, the first question is, do whole schools of fish ever get caught in plastic bags?
That I don't know specifically about whole schools of fish. I do know that fish have gotten caught in plastic bags before. Tom, do you know?
I would think that, well, it'd have to be pretty small fish to be affected by a school of small fish, I guess, could get disrupted by a plastic bag. But the thing to remember is, in the ocean, all that debris and plastic in particular is subject to photodegradation, and plastic breaks down a lot more quickly through photodegradation. Maybe in a matter of months, it breaks down into microplastics. So the problem that fish are encountering more are ingesting microplastics.
Yes. Yes.
And ultimately, we eat those fish, so you wonder how much microplastics are in our body as well. And so I would say the issue more is the plastic is so small that fish are ingesting it.
Yes, they're and I actually just read that they are doing studies. They think that it's actually the plastics affecting certain fish's brains.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, but that was a super good question.
Yeah. We have another question. Why don't recycling centers first melt the straws together and then put them on the conveyor belt? Well, a couple of problems with straws. I think most of them are made from number 5 plastic, which I believe is polypropylene, and a lot of recycling facilities don't take number 5 plastic. And the other problem with straws at recycling centers is they're so small and light that they can't be processed through the equipment that they use to process the recyclables, and they end up as trash anyway. So they cause more problems than there are benefits at the recycling centers. So they're just not a good product to recycle.
Okay. Do you have any more questions?
Okay. Looks like we're good. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We were right on about 50 minutes. Excellent.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So
Thank you guys so much. And
thanks so much.
definitely, yeah,
Have a
send us an email if you have questions or if you're interested in joining the youth program. We would love to give you more information about that. We have a great time here at the YUP.
All right. I'm reading the chats down there.
Oh, yay!
Excellent. See everybody later.
Bye, guys.